Welcome back to Fair Points. Today I want to discuss this new memorandum that released yesterday pausing all federal grants and loans, putting into question many people's food security, putting into question students' tuition payments, putting into question nonprofits and their payrolls. This is a completely anti-American memorandum and something that I'm sure will get praised on the right. Yes, let's stop government spending altogether. Well, completely lying to their own people, pointing out dog whistles and boogeymen that don't really exist. Because that's what the right does best. Don't blame us, blame these things that we made up in our own heads. Things like wokeness, Marxist equity, Green New Deal, social engineering. Yeah, you know that bill that never passed? Yeah, somehow that's still a massive, massive boogeyman for us. And lastly, of course, transgenderism, the thing that Trump already wrote an executive order for, yeah, that's costing you money. Transgender people, less than, 1% of the population, yeah, they're costing you money. It's not the billionaires. It's not people trying to profiteer off of others. No, it's the transgenders that are once again taking all your money away from you. They're the reasons why grocery prices are so high. They're the reason why inflation exists. It's not because oil companies made more money than ever and grocery companies made more money than ever recently. No, it's transgenderism. It's Marxist equity. That is direct words from this memorandum. And inside this memorandum, not only do they point to dog whistles, to boogeymen, they also lie to people straight to their face. Or they just get it wrong, one or the other. But this is a direct quote. In fiscal year 2024, of the nearly $10 trillion that the federal government spent, more than $3 trillion was federal financial assistance, such as grants and loans. Okay, but if you go and look at the 2024 fiscal budget for the U.S. government, it clearly displays there is spending of $6.75 trillion, and this $10 trillion number is made up. Not only that, it's also claiming that there's been $10 trillion spent from October 1st to today. What? Because for those of you that don't know, the fiscal year for the U.S. government is October 1st to September 30th. So this budget was agreed upon by everybody in the government. So saying these words hold no weight because it's simply not true. Not only has the government not spent $10 trillion already, they also, by the way, didn't spend $3 trillion on social assistance already. It's just a giant boogeyman. It's a giant lie. But I know for a fact the right wing will eat it up because heaven forbid they use an iota of critical thinking. Heaven forbid they do any type of research. Because they utilize confirmation bias as much as possible. Ooh, this affects people I don't like? Perfect, it's a good thing. Even though it could affect their neighbor. It could affect them. It could affect the people next to them. They don't know, and they don't care. Very Christian of them. The same party that wants Christian values instilled in schools. Yeah, a Christian value would be helping out those in need. But we're in the U.S., where Christianity means more for me and less for you. Just as Jesus intended. Will never make sense to me. Never makes sense to me how these people claim to be Christian. Because any 10-year-old can tell you, Jesus was for the people, not for himself. But that's not American, right? We've got to pull each other up by our own bootstraps, and that's the only way to be successful instead of, helping people out. Helping out our seniors, because they stand to lose a lot here as well. Because a lot of seniors rely on a thing called Meal on Wheels. And guess what? Meals on Wheels? Federal grants, federal loans. That's how that company is funded. Because the government thinks they should take care of their elderly. Hey, you helped our economy grow to the greatest heights ever seen by any country ever. The least we could do for you is ensure you have some food security. But now Trump, who's never ever in his entire life had to worry about where his next meal is coming from, is going to just erase that, eviscerate it with the stroke of a pen and say, I don't care about you. I couldn't care less about you or my neighbor. You're not a billionaire? You're not somebody that's been born with a silver spoon? Ha! Too bad for you, more for me. I fail to see how this helps anyone out. Yes, you said all the right things. Your Chat GPT memorandum works at brainwashing your base further, works at growing the cult. But anybody who approaches this with any type of critical thinking sees it as what it is: completely nonsensical. Stupidity at its finest. You are putting people out of work. You're putting people out of food security. You're taking students away from schools. I mean, that's one of the bases for the entirety of the Republican movement. Keep them stupid. Unless, of course, they're born into a rich family and then we can bribe school officials to put our kids in the best schools. But remember, those schools, they're not Marxist ideologies. No, they don't teach that there. Those schools aren't because they're full of rich kids. It's the poor schools, the ones that rely on federal assistance to fund them, that has the problem with it. It's just so stupid. And it showcases again and again, this is not an administration for you. It's an administration for them. It's all about me. It's all about me and not about you. And if they cared about servicing the day-to-day Americans, they would do something to ensure there was food security for those who were downtrodden. But remember, that's a devil thing to say, because that bishop that spoke at the Trump inauguration is the devil, apparently. Doesn't embody anything that Christ would share. And frankly, that's where we're at. We're part of an administration that doesn't want to take any type of responsibility for their actions, while also pointing the blame wherever they can and diverting it from themselves. And when people are hungry tonight, tomorrow, and the next day, when people can't pay their rent, they are going to blame Joe Biden and the Democrats. They will not take the responsibility on themselves. They'll say these people have relied on the government for too long and they are not allowed to rely on them any further. And for the base that relies on the government the most, Republicans will cheer it, even though they're the ones who are made to suffer. Sounds like a cult. It's a cult. Stop believing in the cult. Seriously, I'm so sick and tired of it. But that's all I have to say on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well, because I really hope you weren't affected. And it sucks if you were. Understand that not everybody is a bad apple. We just have the most rotten apples currently in office. And it sucks. So thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.